I'm Ethan, 30, male, and she left me for someone better, until she realized I was the best she ever had. It's a statement that once tore at my soul, but now it's a quiet truth I hold. Sophia, 29, my girlfriend for 4 years, was the vibrant, intelligent woman I envisioned a future with. I, a high school art teacher, dedicated my life to shaping young minds and bringing color to my community through art. Our life was comfortable, filled with shared laughter and quiet evenings. But Sophia, an ambitious marketing executive, always had one eye on the fast lane, a subtle yearning for a life beyond my humble, fulfilling existence. The first hint of this underlying dissatisfaction came early in our relationship, during a conversation about our career paths. I enthusiastically described a mural project I was organizing with my students for a local community center. Sophia listened, nodding, but then subtly shifted the conversation. That's wonderful, Ethan, truly, but don't you ever think about something bigger, like a gallery opening in New York or starting your own art empire? Her tone was light, but I felt the unspoken comparison to the kind of grand ambition she admired. I dismissed it as her being supportive in her own way, wanting the best for me. Then there was the growing fascination with social status and material possessions. Sophia started spending more time on social media, following influencers and successful entrepreneurs. She'd often point out designer bags or lavish vacations, sighing, "Wouldn't that be nice, Ethan, just once?" She'd subtly devalue my stable but less glamorous art teacher salary. I remember her once saying, "My colleague just bought a new luxury car. It's beautiful. I mean, it's just a car, but it's a statement, you know." I tried to remind her of the richness in our shared experiences, our passions, but her gaze seemed fixed on a different kind of wealth. The most painful foreshadowing came about 6 months before our breakup. Sophia started attending more high-profile corporate events, networking relentlessly. She met Julian, a charismatic venture capitalist, at one of these gatherings. She'd come home buzzing, not about the event itself, but about Julian's connections, his influence, his jet-setting lifestyle. "He's just so dynamic, Ethan," she'd gush. "He makes things happen." She'd show me photos of him on yachts, at exclusive parties, subtly comparing his opulent world to our cozy apartment and quiet evenings. I felt a chill, a creeping dread that I was slowly losing her to an ideal I could never embody. My comfortable world was about to be rocked, and I was utterly unprepared for the superficiality that would tear us apart. Julian's name became a growing presence in our lives, a constant, shimmering reminder of the world Sophia increasingly yearned for. She started subtly changing her habits, mirroring his opulent lifestyle. Expensive new clothes appeared in her closet, seemingly casual gifts from work connections. Our conversations became strained. She'd talk excitedly about the exclusive events she attended with Julian, how inspiring he was, how he had opened her eyes to what's possible. My art, my teaching, my community projects, which once resonated with her, now seemed to bore her. She'd nod distractedly, her eyes often drifting to her phone, probably checking Julian's latest social media posts. I tried to bridge the widening gap between us. I planned a surprise weekend trip to a secluded cabin in the mountains, a place where we'd created cherished memories in the past. I hoped to rekindle the spark, to remind her of the simplicity and genuine connection we once shared. She agreed, but her enthusiasm felt forced. During the trip, she was constantly on her phone, checking emails, responding to texts, claiming urgent work matters. The natural beauty surrounding us, the quiet intimacy I craved, seemed lost on her. When I gently suggested she put her phone away, she snapped, "Ethan, you just don't understand how competitive my world is. Julian is always connected." Her words were like a cold slap. Julian was always connected, I was not. The true breaking point came during a quiet evening at home. I had prepared her favorite meal, lit candles, and put on the jazz music she loved. I wanted to talk about our future, to reaffirm our commitment. I noticed her phone buzzing persistently in her purse. She glanced at it, a flicker of irritation crossing her face. "Sophia," I began, taking her hand across the table, "I feel like we're drifting apart. I love you and I want us to work through this. What's happening?" She pulled her hand away, her eyes cold. "Ethan, I need more than this." Her gaze swept around our cozy apartment, then back to me, lingering on my worn art teacher clothes. I need someone who understands ambition, someone who can provide the kind of life I deserve, a life where I don't have to worry about money or prestige. My heart sank. Is this about Julian? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She hesitated for a moment, then met my gaze with a defiant resolve. Julian understands me in a way you never could. He sees my potential. He offers a future you simply can't. I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm leaving. The words hung in the air, shattering everything. She packed her bags within the hour, efficiently, emotionlessly. She moved out not just from our apartment, but from my life, directly into Julian's opulent world. I was left alone, heartbroken, devastated, and completely blindsided by her abrupt departure and her cruel dismissal of our years together. The silence in the apartment screamed with her final words, "You're not ambitious enough." The pain was excruciating, but beneath it, a tiny spark of determination flickered to life. She thought Julian was better, but I was about to prove her profoundly wrong. Sophia's words, "You're not ambitious enough," "I need someone who can provide the kind of life I deserve," uttered as she walked out the door and into Julian's waiting arms, echoed in the desolate silence of our apartment. The heartbreak was a crushing weight, stealing my breath, blurring my vision. 4 years, reduced to a casual dismissal, replaced by a promise of a better life with someone else. The immediate aftermath was a blur of raw grief. I wandered through our once shared space, every object, every memory now tainted by her cold departure. The vibrant canvases that adorned our walls, my own creations, felt dull and lifeless. The aroma of oil paint, usually a comfort, now seemed to mock my shattered dreams. Friends called, bewildered and concerned, but I could barely articulate the depth of my pain. My parents offered quiet support, their own hearts aching for my heartbreak. But beneath the initial devastation, a quiet anger began to simmer. Her words, her casual devaluation of my life, my passion, my worth, stung. She hadn't just broken my heart, she had dismissed my very being. The image of her walking away, confident in her choice of someone better, fueled a growing, cold resolve. I wasn't going to wallow. I wasn't going to let her casual dismissal define me. Instead of drowning in sorrow, I channeled my pain into fierce self-improvement. My art studio, once a place of relaxed creation, became a sanctuary of intense focus. I started painting with a renewed vigor, each brushstroke a release of emotion, a declaration of my resilience. My teaching, too, became a source of strength. I poured myself into my students, finding solace and purpose in guiding their creativity. I also began to observe Sophia's new life, not out of longing, but out of a morbid curiosity, a detached interest in the better she had chosen. Her social media was a curated highlight reel of opulence, exclusive parties, private jets, designer clothes, always with Julian by her side, smiling his charismatic smile. From the outside, it looked like a fairy tale. But I knew Julian, I knew his type. He was all about appearances, all about what someone could do for him. I remembered snippets of conversations from Sophia's past, subtle hints of her own insecurities, her deep need for external validation. I saw how Julian subtly dismissed her ideas in shared industry articles, always taking the credit, always shining brighter. It was a familiar pattern, one I recognized from my own experience with Sophia and her subtle devaluations of me. The better she had chosen seemed to be less about genuine connection and more about a transaction of image and status. The realization sparked a new resolve. Sophia had left me for someone better, convinced I was not enough. But I was about to show her, and Julian, that genuine worth isn't measured in material possessions or superficial influence. I was building a life of authenticity, driven by passion and real connection, something they both seemed incapable of. And in time, she would realize the profound mistake she had made. I wouldn't just move on, I would flourish, and that, in itself, would be the most undeniable, unforgettable form of justice. The immediate void left by Sophia's departure was immense, but it didn't swallow me whole. Her words, "not ambitious enough, the life I deserve," echoed in the apartment, transforming from a painful sting into a cold, hard fuel. I refused to let her narrative define me. My heartbreak was raw, but beneath it, a new sense of purpose began to solidify. I wouldn't just survive, I would thrive. My first step was to reclaim my space. I rearranged the furniture, painted over the muted colors we had chosen together, and filled the walls with my own vibrant artwork. The apartment, once a shrine to our shared life, became a sanctuary for my individual growth, a testament to my resilience. The scent of oil paints and fresh canvases replaced the faint traces of her expensive perfume. I plunged into my work. My teaching, usually a steady passion, became a consuming fire. I developed new, innovative art projects for my students, focusing on themes of resilience and self-expression. Their boundless creativity and genuine enthusiasm were a powerful antidote to my despair. My freelance photography also took off. I pushed myself creatively, experimenting with new styles, taking on challenging commissions that forced me to grow. Each successful shoot, each positive client feedback was a small victory, a quiet affirmation of my worth beyond Sophia's dismissive judgment. I also embraced personal growth outside of my career. I started running again, pushing my physical limits, feeling the burn in my muscles translate into a cleansing release of emotional pain. I reconnected with old friends I had drifted from, their unwavering support a balm to my wounded spirit. I sought out new community art initiatives, dedicating my time to projects that brought real, tangible joy to others. My life, once centered around Sophia, now expanded outward, rich with new experiences and genuine connections. Meanwhile, Sophia's new life, meticulously curated and broadcast on social media, became a distant, almost abstract spectacle. Her posts with Julian were all about luxury, private jet selfies, exclusive resort check-ins, designer shopping sprees. From an objective distance, it looked like the pinnacle of success. But I, having known Sophia intimately, sensed a hollowness beneath the gleaming surface. Her smiles in the photos seemed a little too wide, her gaze a little too eager for validation. Julian, in every picture, had a proprietary air, his arm around her, but his eyes often seemed to be scanning the room, always looking for the next best thing. I started to hear whispers through mutual acquaintances, subtle observations from people who moved in Sophia's new circles. Julian was charming, yes, but also notoriously demanding and emotionally distant. He was a master networker, always looking for a better deal, a more advantageous connection. The seeds of her disillusionment, I suspected, were already being sown, even if she couldn't see them yet. He had promised her better, but I was building something real, something rooted in authenticity and enduring value. And I knew with a quiet certainty that eventually she would realize the profound mistake she had made. As months turned into a year, my life flourished, a vibrant canvas painted with purpose and genuine joy. My art projects gained significant local recognition, featured in community newspapers and even a small gallery exhibition. My students thrived, inspired by my renewed energy. My freelance photography business expanded, attracting clients who valued my unique artistic vision. I was no longer defined by a broken heart, but by the strength and resilience forged in its aftermath. Sophia and Julian's gilded cage, meanwhile, began to show cracks, visible even from a distance. Their social media posts, once a relentless stream of lavishness, became less frequent and subtly less joyful. The spark in Sophia's eyes, once so bright, seemed dimmed. I heard whispers through the grapevine, filtered through mutual acquaintances. Julian was famously demanding, a narcissist who required constant admiration, and he often dismissed Sophia's own career aspirations, seeing her more as an accessory than a partner. He was always looking for the next big thing, not just in business, but in people. The tipping point came one evening when I ran into an old mutual friend, Marcus, who still occasionally socialized with Sophia. He looked troubled. "Sophia's not doing great, Ethan," he confided after a few drinks. "Julian, he's just left her for some younger, even richer socialite. Said Sophia wasn't connected enough for his next phase, and he apparently told her that she was too needy and emotional." Marcus shook his head. "She's devastated. She lost everything for him." A strange mix of emotions washed over me, a fleeting pang of pity for Sophia's pain, quickly followed by a powerful, undeniable surge of vindication. Julian had done to her exactly what he did to everyone else, what he did to me, used, then discarded for someone better. And in his cruel dismissal, he had mirrored Sophia's own words back to her. A few weeks later, my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. It was Sophia. Her voice was hesitant, laced with a vulnerability I hadn't heard in years. She sounded tired, broken. She apologized for calling out of the blue, then tentatively asked if we could meet. She said she had made a terrible mistake. I agreed, not out of longing or a desire for reconciliation, but out of a quiet curiosity, a need for closure on my own terms. We met at a small, unassuming coffee shop, far from the bustling world of venture capitalists and marketing executives. Sophia arrived, a shadow of her former confident self. Her designer clothes seemed to hang a little loosely, her vibrant energy dulled. She began to speak, her voice trembling. She recounted Julian's emotional coldness, his relentless focus on image, his constant search for someone better. She admitted her own folly, her blind pursuit of superficial success, and how she had dismissed true happiness. I realized, she whispered, tears welling in her eyes, that what I had with you, Ethan, was real. It was genuine, it was, the best I ever had. She looked at me, a profound regret in her gaze, implicitly asking for forgiveness, for a second chance. In that moment, I saw not the woman who had hurt me, but the lost soul she had become, trapped by her own choices. My heart didn't ache for her, but for the person she had been, and for the lessons she had learned so painfully. The unveiling of secrets was complete, not through an explosive revelation, but through the quiet, undeniable truth of her own bitter experience. She had left me for someone better, until she realized I was the best she ever had. Sophia's confession, her raw admission that what we had was the best she ever had, was a quiet, profound vindication. It wasn't a shouting match or a public spectacle. It was a moment of stark honesty, and it finally brought a sense of completion to my long journey of healing. I listened patiently as she poured out her regrets, her disillusionment with Julian, and her dawning realization of the superficiality that had driven her choices. She looked at me, her eyes pleading, and then asked hesitantly if there was any chance for us. My answer was firm yet gentle, Sophia. I said, my voice kind but unwavering, what we had was special, and I truly wish you peace and happiness. But I'm not the same person I was when you left, and you're not the same person either. We both grew, but in different directions. My life has moved on, and I've found a different kind of happiness, one that's authentic and truly fulfilling. She nodded slowly, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. She understood. There was no argument, no desperate plea, just a quiet acceptance. She thanked me again for listening, for the truth, and for the closure. That was the last time we spoke in person. Our paths, once intertwined, had permanently diverged. The indirect exposure of Julian's true nature, through Sophia's painful experience and the whispers circulating in their high society circles, was already taking its toll on him. His reputation as a ruthless dealmaker was now overlaid with an unsavory reputation for callous personal behavior. Investors, often sensitive to public image, became warier. He still had his wealth, but his once unblemished facade of a charismatic visionary was cracking, revealing the manipulative narcissist beneath. Meanwhile, my life continued to flourish. My community art projects expanded, drawing in more volunteers and funding. One of my students, deeply inspired by my resilience, created a stunning mural in the school hallway depicting an artist rising from broken pieces, a subtle nod to my journey. My freelance photography business boomed, attracting clients who valued my authentic approach and unique perspective. I was no longer seeking external validation. My worth was intrinsically tied to my passion and my positive impact on the world around me. I started dating again, cautiously at first, but with an open heart and a clear understanding of what I truly valued in a partner: genuine connection, shared values, and mutual respect. I met someone kind and grounded, who saw my artistic soul and supported my ambitions without judgment. Our relationship was built on a foundation of honesty and shared passions, a stark contrast to the superficiality I had once endured. Sophia, through her own painful journey, eventually faded from my direct orbit. Her social media, once a curated highlight reel, became private. I heard through the grapevine that she had taken a less glamorous job, focusing on genuine passion projects rather than chasing prestige. Perhaps she was finding her own path to authenticity just as I had. He thought he could break my heart and casually walk away, believing I was easily replaced, but in the end I didn't just move on, I transformed. I thrived, and in my flourishing, in my quiet resilience and genuine happiness, I became the undeniable, unforgettable reminder of what she had truly lost and what she had truly left behind. After listening to today's story, perhaps it has raised some new questions in your mind. Every day on Reddit, new experiences and moments create fresh stories. We are all human. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to share it. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to keep an eye out for more stories coming soon.